G'day, I'm Mark from Self Sufficient Me, and in this video I'm going to give you my 5 top tips on how to grow a ton of lemons on just one lemon tree. Tip number 1, position. This is one of the most important things you can do when you're siting and planting a lemon tree, is to ensure that it's located in the right spot. Things you need to consider for a lemon tree to thrive like this is to plant it first of all in an area where it's not going to compete too much for light. Lemon trees love full sun. This is a fruit bearing tree and it produces lots of fruit. That means that takes lots of energy. And how does a tree like this get most of its energy, and where does it get it from? Sunlight. So wherever possible, plant your lemon tree for best results in full sun. Now lemon trees do love warm weather, but say if you're in a cool climate, what you can do is plant the tree in a warm spot, maybe against a sunny wall that gets sun most of the day, and that wall is heated up through the day, through the coldest part of the year, so that it can at least grow happily through the cool winter months and then thrive in the summer months and springtime. Let's just quickly touch on the soil aspects of a lemon tree, because we don't really need to go too much in depth, and the reason for that is lemon trees are just so hardy. They will grow in just about any conditions or any soil. The other thing it has is a extensive fibrous feeder root system that's almost to the surface. If you scratch around the surface of this tree or a mature tree or even smaller trees, you'll find that they have fibrous roots just underneath the surface, and this makes them very adept to grabbing any type of moisture, whether it be dew or whether it be small rainfall, and it can really suck that moisture up and the nutrients and the minerals and make best use of it. Speaking about the root system, that leads me on to tip number 2, which is mulching. This is just a quick tip, but nevertheless it's really important, and it's how one of the main reasons why I've got so much success out of growing lemons. I mulch our lemon tree like crazy. I mean I don't continually mulch it every day or anything like that, but when I do put mulch down, I will lay it on thick, sometimes like a foot deep. And the reason for that is those fibrous root systems that I was talking about, they do love protection, and if you give it protection from the harsh sun or the cold weather through winter, and you keep that root system nice and cool and keep the moisture in by mulching deeply, well then that's going to give it more chance to suck up all those nutrients. The other thing that mulch does is as it breaks down, it adds extra nutrients to the soil and feeds it to the root system. What type of mulch do you use? You can use anything. What I've got here is a mixture of things I've grabbed around the yard: twigs, sticks, leaves, even old rotten fruit that I've just left underneath the tree. The main point is lay the mulch down nice and thick. Mulch it heavily right out to the drip line or the tree canopy, and your lemon tree will love you for it. Tip number 3, fertilise. Now you can do this in 2 ways. You can either use natural fertilisers like manures you get from your own animals, chicken, ducks, horses, or you can buy it from the stables and apply that to the tree, or you can use a commercial fertiliser, the granulated stuff that you get from the shop or from the nursery. Both are good, and I've used both. I have to say personally I prefer using the commercial stuff, and I'll tell you why. Let's break it down. A lot of manures, well, all manures won't have all the essential trace elements, things like zinc, iron, and those special minerals that a lemon tree needs to grow, that it may not be getting from the soil either. So if you're going to use a manure, remember that that's fine, but you may need to buy some separate trace elements, not fertiliser, but the trace elements itself. We can get 1 or 2 scoops in a watering can and you water it around the tree, or you can get a granulated trace element pack that you throw a few handfuls underneath the tree once a year, and that's usually enough. So remember that when you're using a straight manure, it may not have everything. On the other hand, if you're using a commercial fertiliser, a citrus fertiliser usually comes with the trace elements in it. And I'd recommend a citrus fertiliser that does say on the pack, citrus fertiliser with trace elements. That way you don't have to go and buy the trace elements separately. And that will then cover all the nutrition, extra nutrition and micro minerals and nutrients it needs, plus the fertiliser it needs to grow nice big fat fruit. Now in tip 2, I talked about mulch. When you're fertilising, the best way to do it is add the fertiliser after you've put the mulch down. So if your mulch has run low, put new mulch on nice and thick, and then whack the fertiliser around. If it's manure, you probably want to have a real liberal spread of manure around that tree. Like, a couple of inches deep, nice well-rotted manure, remember, and spread evenly right around the tree, about 30 centimetres or a foot out from the trunk, and right out to the drip line. So a nice thick layer, but on top of that mulch. If you're using a commercial fertiliser, well, for a tree this size, I would use about 5 or 6 handfuls of complete fertiliser with trace elements, and I would throw that liberally around on top of the mulch, around the tree in an even way, right out to the drip line, and about, again, a foot out from the trunk, so that it's not too close to the trunk and is not burning any of those feeder roots. After you've fertilised, you want to give it a good water in as well. That fertiliser will then drip feed through the mulch over a period of time and give your plant an extended feed over several months and extended micronutrients that it needs to produce really well and stay healthy, rather than a big quick hit that might sort of overdo the plant and make it grow too leggy and overgreen but not much fruit. If you're using a commercial fertiliser, look at the manufacturer's specifications and apply that strictly to what the manufacturer says. Don't go overboard and kill it with love. If you put too much fertiliser down, you'll kill the tree with love, or it just won't perform because it's been over fertilised and overstimulated, and you might get a lot of leafy growth but not a lot of fruit. So you want to give it just the right amount, and remember, on top of that mulch, that's the key. Tip number 4, water. Sounds pretty simple, but lemon trees do love a lot of water, and watering at the right time is vitally important if you want a lot of fruit. The best time to start your watering regime is when this tree starts to flower, and then the flowers drop and it starts to produce its fruit. If you are giving a good amount of water to the tree, making sure that, of course, it's not bogged down in a quagmire of bogginess, well, that's obviously silly, but say giving it appropriate water and making sure it's not drying out or needing a drink, that's for sure. When it's starting to form fruit, it will keep its fruit, and it will grow its fruit bigger because it will think that it can. It will think that the conditions are good, so I'm going to produce good. Tip number 5, and the final tip, pests and disease. Now you might be surprised to know that I don't pay a lot of attention to pests and disease. The thing is, if you do the first 4 tips well, your tree will be strong enough and happy enough to deal with most pest and disease outbreaks. The last thing you want to do is micromanage your tree and go all worried and sick just because it's got a few aphids on it, or a bronze orange bug here and there, or a gall wasp, or it's looking a bit sick. Don't go to the cabinet and bring out all the pesticides or the systemic pesticides. That is the worst thing you can do, because remember, they're indiscriminate. If you use a pesticide on a tree like this, you're also killing all the bees and the other pollinating insects and the predator insects that use these other pests as feed. And once you wipe them out, it's like wiping out all the lions and the tigers, and then you're going to have all the other smaller animals flourish and go crazy and eat all the grass and turn the savanna into desert. So it's an extreme example, I know, But what you're better off doing is leaving the tree cope with the small outbreaks of aphids, etc., and don't worry about it so much. What I have to say though is if you do find that there is a major infestation on your tree, try to find an organic way to get rid of it, either by picking off pests by hand or by pruning the tree back and getting rid of diseased leaves and branches. That is the best way to combat pests and disease, because having said everything I've said, the last thing you want to do is have your tree suffer from a major infestation, and that will affect how much fruit you get. So yes, watch it. If it's just small outbreaks like the odd caterpillar, well then fine. Just leave it, have its fill, and it'll turn into a butterfly and it'll fly off. Don't break out the pesticide cabinet. If it's a major infestation, say citrus borer, and you see a whole branch die off, well then you need to take action, don't you? So it's a little bit of give and take there, and wherever possible, use organic means, because the last thing you want to do is poison the environment, kill all those predator insects and those pollinating insects, and also have residual poisons in the fruit that you're going to eat. That's just not helpful at all, is it? And that's it. That's my 5 big tips on how to grow a ton of lemons on your lemon tree. Position, mulch, fertilise, water, and pests. If you do all those 5 things, you will grow a lot of fruit and have a very happy fruit tree. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget the website, selfsufficientme.com. Give us a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already. Bye for now. Beautiful.